If you want to learn how to draw this pattern, then I've got a full tutorial for you. Follow along and see the tools in the next section. To create this pattern from scratch, you need a piece of paper, a ruler, pencil, an eraser, a compass, a ruling pen, some gouache paint, a brush, and some tracing paper. That's all you need to create this pattern. So get these tools ready and follow along. If you have any questions at any time, just put them in the comments section. I'm going to show you how to draw this pattern from scratch, and I will explain the process very slowly, including making some mistakes and attempting to fix them, and how to deal with gouache paint. Enjoy. The first step is looking at my blank page or blank sheet. I have to think about the placement of the pattern, and this pattern, like many patterns I draw, is going to be made of 4 symmetrical quarters. So all these quarters are going to be mirrors of each other, and that makes me think that I first of all need to leave like a margin to the side of the pages, so I don't want it, encroaching to one of the edges of the paper, basically, just to look nice, and also to give me some space for like a very small or narrow border. So let's begin. So I'm gonna start with this bottom left corner or bottom left quarter of the pattern, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna mark a center point here, thinking about the actual pattern. So I'll probably have the envelope about this wide, yeah. So I'm just gonna open my compass to a measurement that I feel is comfortable to me and big enough, and I'll just start drawing my main circle. This is going to be the start of everything I do, so it's okay to make errors, it's okay to make mistakes, we can always correct them. The next step is I'll just cut a horizontal diameter on the center point of the circle. So now I have the circle placed on a horizontal center line. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to open my compass to probably over 3/4, just over 3/4 of the diameter of the circle, and then I'm going to make 2 arcs on the top from this side, and I'm going to make another 2 arcs on the top from this side, and these are basically going to be the intersection points that give me my vertical diameter. Now again, I'm going to draw lightly. You should be drawing very lightly with your pencil. I only darken the marks to make sure that it is clear for you in the recording. So once I have that, I will now think about the square that is the envelope around this circle. So I'm going to go back and measure the radius of my circle. That's the radius of my circle, and at each of these 4 intersection points I'm going to draw 2 arcs, keeping the compass opening the same, and this way I'll try to locate and find the 4 corners of my square envelope, which I'm going to be using again and building upon to draw my envelope for the pattern. once I get these four corners, I start joining them with my ruler. As you can see, they're accurate enough. There will be small errors. As long as you're trying and creating, errors will always be there, and that's part of the process, I'm afraid. So you could try to seek perfection, but it's not easily guaranteed all the time. Certainly for me. So now I have this circle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to also draw this diagonal, and I don't need the other diagonal yet. But what I'm going to do now is open my compass to measure the side of the square. Make sure that it's an accurate measurement across the two sides, so it needs to be a little bit bigger to measure, so to measure the two sides. And I'm going to draw the circle. I then will look for this measurement, which is a key measurement in fourfold patterns. We're not drawing a fourfold today, but we're using this or these same steps to create the envelope of the fivefold pattern. So I'm trying to draw a square root 2 rectangle, which means that one side is equal to the square root 2 of the other side. So I get this measurement, and then I will make two marks, one over here and one at the top, and then again making two marks here, one at the top, and fixing my compass over here. I will open the point to get to this corner, and I will make an intersection here. I will then go over to that point again, fix it to this corner, and I'll make an intersection here. And this way I get the two sides of this square extended to, let me try this one first, extended to these points of intersection to close my square root of 2 rectangle. So here's one, and here's the second one, and then erase the marks that I don't need. And now I have my square root 2 rectangle, which is the envelope that I'm going to be using in my drawing today. The next thing I'm going to do is now finding the angles or the dividing lines that will divide this angle into 5 equal parts, of course being 18 degrees each. So I'll get this opening and I will draw this arc. Once I draw this half circle, I will then find this intersecting point between these 2 points. If I would draw a line that would intersect with the half circle I've just drawn, and I'll find this point. Now this measurement becomes a very important measurement for me, because it is a measurement that lets me find and locate 18 degrees dividing lines. So from this corner to this intersecting point, and I'll mark my big circle here. Once I got these, I can then start to find my first line, which is from this point to this corner and extending it. So that's my first dividing line, and this degree is now 18 degrees. If you want to measure it, you'll find that it will be 18 degrees, which means that I will be dividing this 90 degrees angle into 5 equal angles. Now the next step is to open up our compass to get to this point. And again, that's a very important arc, because that gives me the 18 degree distance from the other corner of the envelope, which we are going to be using to find that corner of the envelope. I'm going to now draw it on the other side, and I'm going to go and get my measurement again of this side. And on the new arcs that I've drawn, I will first of all mark my original circle. So that's another line of 18 degrees, but I'll then mark an intersection here. And once I do that, I will, again, that's another line, and I will mark my corner here. And this way I have got the line that closes my 18 degrees, my 1054 rectangle, which is basically the envelope that I'll be using to create my pattern. Now there's a lot of lines in here, so I'm just going to go over them with the eraser because I don't need a lot of them. But I will now connect a very important line between these two arcs, intersecting points. So that is a line that goes across the midpoint of the envelope, and that is again the line that divides so now I have an 18 degree line, which is, I'm gonna just redarken, another 18 degrees, another 18 degrees, and this is why I'm just erasing the old stuff. And then I have another 18 degrees here, which I'm just gonna draw. And I could then also split or divide the opposite corner. And again, by joining these lines, I'll find my 18 degrees split or division lines. And as I said, we just can go here and erase some of these lines that we don't need. We're just gonna go back and redraw these important lines and make sure that they are dark enough for us in the recording. So here you are, we've got 18 degrees, 18 degrees, 18 degrees, 18 degrees and 18 degrees, so that's 5 equal angles or divisions of the angle. And then we have the same here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 divisions, equal divisions of the opposite angle. And apart from that, we have one very last step, which is join. So we said that this is the midpoint. We'll just measure to the midpoint, and we're gonna draw these two arcs, which are very important for our drawing and will be very important for our pattern in a while. Now to the very first step in our pattern, and this distance is going to be a key to our pattern, and it is between the intersection of this main arc with the envelope side to the intersection of our opposite arc with the 18 degrees line. So you could see from here, this is the distance, and it should be the exact same distance here. As you can see, it is the exact same distance from here to here, from there to there. Okay, and once I get that distance, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw the two sides or the two corners. And what this is gonna give me, it's gonna give me the inner radius of the stars on these two opposite corners. I'm also using this to mark my outer radius of my stars. So these marks are gonna be my outer radius. And again, you could see that I'm constantly deleting or erasing the old marks that I don't need. Now next, I'm gonna now open my circle and mark the outer circle of my star to this measurement, and I'll draw it. I'll go over here, and it's just a very minor error which I'm gonna correct, but then I'm gonna again draw that circle. One line that I have now managed to find, which is gonna be along the first that's gonna be the from the circle, inner circle to the corner, and again over here. That line is also going to be used. I will now find the intersection of this line with the 36-degree line, which is this one, and I'm going to draw this circle. And this is basically the outer circle of my small star. I will then connect this point with this point, and I'll do the same on the opposite corner. I can also connect this point with that point. So again, these are all the lines that will form the basis of my pattern. I will then close this shape and I have this shape that will be also, there is a pentagon that is starting to form here, if you can see it, but we're gonna get to that in a minute. Now next, what I'm gonna be doing is finding another important circle, which is probably gonna be the one that marks a lot of the intersections on the outside of the envelopes. And in order to do that, I need to find the distance between this intersection and this arc. So I'm gonna measure that, and bear with me on this step, because this is the most, I would say, challenging step of all of this pattern. So once you get this measurement, you will start drawing circles that mark the intersections. So that's one arc. You will also draw at this corner, and then the intersection of that circle from the corner to the other side, and then you'll basically mirror that. So the mirror of that point is this point. So again, I'm gonna come here, and it is exactly the same opening from here to here, and I will again do this in this corner, and from this intersection. So now that I've done that, I could find the bigger circle over which the pentagons are rotating. There are pentagons, 2 pentagons here, and apologies, there's 2.5 pentagons in every corner that rotate. So the external circle of those pentagons will come from this corner to the intersection of the circle that we've just found, and we will draw this external circle. Again, you could see that this one has got a little bit of an error. I'll correct that, that's okay. And then I will go and find it. I will then find some lines that are now showing me where we're heading. So this big circle that I've just drawn has intersected with the diagonal. So this point and this point, they need to be connected with these. So this one is going to be connected here. This one is going to be connected down here. And then what I have is the intersection of this line with, again, the circle that I've just drawn. And I will mark that. I will also mark it on the opposite side. So this is its mirror, as we said. And from this point to this little point at the top, I will connect that. And then I'll also do the same from this point to this intersecting point. And I will now connect this. It's becoming a bit too much, but I'm getting there. Now the inside of the pentagons, and the inside of the pentagons is basically just the intersection that we have with the pentagon line and this 18-degree line. Okay, and this is why what we said about these 18-degree lines, they are key for our pattern. They are the basis of our pattern. And again, I draw this circle. I find the same draw this pattern. I find the same intersection here, and I draw it over here. Okay, I'm not going to just made it a little bit bigger. So I have now corrected it. And then I get to the lines that go and close the pentagons, and they basically come from this intersection to the new circle that we've drawn, and then we have it here as well. So this new circle that we've drawn to the intersection of this. Then I have these little lines that I need to join. I will also draw these two parallel lines from the outer intersections of this circle. And I'm gonna also try and find the outer circumference. I'm gonna have to find the outer circumference of this pentagon, and again I'll do the exact same thing here. So what I did is I found this large circle, but it was from here, not from the corner, of course. And I'm going to do the same here. So again, a little bit of an error, I'll correct that. And I'll draw this circle. And that gives me the closing of my pentagon. And it's probably somewhere over here. And the same here. And the pattern is ready to be traced. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get some tracing paper and place it on top of this and start joining or finding my pattern. So what I have is a piece of tracing paper and some tape, and I'm gonna start fixing my tracing paper with tape just to make sure that it doesn't move around when I'm tracing the important parts, because that is just going to make it much easier for me to keep track of what I'm tracing and ensure a smooth tracing process. First things first, I'm going to draw my outer envelope. So that's the 1054 rectangle. And you could use a regular pencil or a mechanical pencil for this step, as long as it is HB or B or a darker kind of pencil, just to make sure that you leave enough graphite to be traced. So the first line I'm going to trace is these two small lines. So I'm going to trace these two small lines, and then I'm going to find the lines that I'm going to also be joining here. So that's another line. That I'm going to be tracing. I did overshoot a little bit here, but that's okay. I'm going to rub it out. The problem with tracing paper is that it's not as robust as the paper that I was drawing on, so it's gonna probably leave a mark, but that's okay because I'm not gonna go back over it. So that's my next line, and then I will close this line to that line, and then I'm gonna go back again, and I'm gonna connect this point with this point, and that point with that point. So this is just tracing the pattern at this moment. So that's my first shape. As you can see, I've made a bit of a mistake here, but that's okay, it's not going to show in the final result. I will then need to focus on this line, and then go over that line until here, till this point. And then from that point to the top, and I'm gonna mirror that. So remember, my pattern is a 5-fold symmetrical pattern. So once I have done that, I will go and repeat the same as a mirror. So for this line, it's going to be that line. And then from this line to this point over here. And then from this point to the bottom. That is my two lines, and then I'm gonna connect these two lines as well. And then I'm gonna do the same here. As we said, we always mirror. We try to mirror what we're doing. Okay, and then I will have two last steps that I need. So this line up till here, it connects with that one and then goes that one. So this point over here is crucial. So I'm gonna go with that line and then this line. To that point, and then from this point to that point. And it's starting to look like a pattern. Maybe this line just needed to shift a little bit. Again, that's okay. These mistakes will happen. It's important to keep looking at the drawing and finding what you could fix as you move along. So that's another one, and then we take it to this point over here. So from this point to that point, and then from this point downwards to that point, and that is our pattern. So as you can see, this is the finished pattern. Now I could either trace this as it is and start painting it, or I could probably give it a little bit of a thickness, and that's probably what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna now start giving these lines some thicknesses so that when I trace them, I trace the bands, and then I could probably do some kind of interlacing or nice art. So what I like to do is number these. So I've done 1, 2, and 3, and in just case I've missed it in the recording, so I'm gonna move to number 4. So what I'm gonna do is just eye it with my ruler and set the 1mm thickness on either end of each line, just to make sure that I can join them later and make that banding that I'm looking for. That's all. So it's very approximate at this stage, and again, if I catch anything that looks off to the eye at the end, I will always be able to correct it. So again, I'm not going for super accuracy, rather I am trying to finish this as soon as possible and get to the painting stage, which is also quite enjoyable. So that's 4. I'm gonna go now to number 5. So I was very tricky with the ones that have the shortest length. So that's number 5. Get to number 6. That's number 6 done, and now number 7. and now I need to join these bands. Again, starting with number 1. Again, this is very approximate at this stage. I could actually do the 2 lines together. This is a bit too much, it was felt. So I'm just gonna fix it. So okay. As you can see, I'm just gonna overlap them at the moment. I don't mind. Again, I'm just trying to get an idea of the bands, and then once I transfer them onto the sheet, I will focus on making sure they look better. Okay, let's do these 2 lines now quickly. Okay. Okay. Okay, one last one. Okay, and here are the bands. And they don't look super neat, granted, but let's see when we transfer them now. One last thing is I like to make sure I put an F so that I know that this is the front or the top. So what I can do now is start transferring my pattern to the next quarter, and in order to do that I just need to know that once I'm done with this quarter it's going to be that quarter over here. So I've got my paper like that, and I'm just going to mirror it to the top, fix it in place. Make sure that I am on line. And try to be accurate going forward, because this is where the tracing makes a difference to what the pattern looks like. So I'm gonna start, of course, with the envelope again. Now I'm gonna go over the lines that I want to be transferred. Now I probably wouldn't want this line, so I'm gonna leave it out, but I'm gonna do it anyway, just in case I need to trace it to the other sides later. Then I have another line here at the top. That's good. So again, I'm gonna start with the big shape, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start from here now. So this is gonna be number 1, and I'm gonna go over the 2 bandings. So I'm just gonna go over the banding lines, this one, and then I'm gonna choose this one. So what I'm gonna do this time is I'm gonna go over these lines and then those lines, and then right to left and left to right, or top to bottom. So that helps me try and cover most of the lines in a quick way. So again, as I told you, I missed one here, but I'm gonna correct that, that's okay. I'm gonna show you how I can correct that later. I'm gonna trace it, but then gonna have to correct it later. So these are the lines going that way. I'm gonna now go over the lines going that way. So then I have this one. And then our line that we missed. And on that one, I'm gonna go over the one in the middle, just to make sure that I get it right on the paper. Okay, so I've done these, I've done those ones over here. Now it's time to go over the ones okay, so go over that one. Okay, and the last one over here. Okay, now I want to go over these. Okay. And now the horizontal ones, so they are the only ones left now. So this time I'm gonna go bottom to top, just for a change. Let's see if I have captured all of them. I'll slowly show. Did I miss any lines? Nope, I didn't. I only just need to go over these and then I'm good to go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna park this over here and I'm gonna make sure that I join these and I do them very lightly. And that's it. I think that's good enough. Now I need to erase this and retrace it, believe it or not. So I'm gonna have to erase my old pattern. because it was just very dark. And I did that, of course, because of the camera. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go back and trace all these lines, my old pattern. So this is how I now put my old pattern back, and as you can see, it fits really well. Now, I know the painting or the drawing is starting to get a bit smudgy, and that's okay because we're working with pencil. We will try our best to stay civilized, but if we're not able to make it it's not a big deal. So again, I started from this way and I move on till I find my next line. Then I move on to my next line. Okay, and then okay, so I've done these lines. I will now do these lines. Okay, so I've done these lines, and then I will do these lines. Let me first start with the kind ones, then I'll do that one. And then I'll do this one. Another one. Then this one. And this one. that one. Last one here. Okay, now I need to do the horizontal ones. And I believe that's it for this quarter. I think we've done it in 5 minutes or so. So as you can see, it's starting to really come together. Now let's do our next quarter. Now let's do our next quarter. So we try to line up these lines as much as we could, of course, but here we are. Now, some of this tape is now becoming a bit unusable. Now on to the next quarter, and I'm only gonna bother with these two sides. Because I don't need the other. And then I'm gonna again start this way, so from the top left corner. It's important to have thick tracing paper, enough to handle all this pressure and pressing that you put through with your pencil. Right, so that's from top top left corner. Let's go from top right corner this time. And again, that tape is wearing out. Let's see if we've done everything. No, we missed these. Okay, and we missed this one. So you can see I can just check really quickly without taking out the rest of the tape. That's good enough. Now on to the last quarter. On to our next and last quarter. So we want to line up these lines because they make all the difference. And if these lines are off, this is the first thing the viewer is gonna pick on. So we want this to be as aligned as possible, and we probably need to raise it a bit over here. So this side looks okay, this side looks also good enough. It could probably go a little bit top, a little bit here. I think this is good enough. Let's fix it to fix it to the page. Now again, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by drawing the upper envelope, which is this one. And I won't bother with the other two envelopes, I will just do the external one. Again. Now let's start again. We're gonna go from the top left corner. And we're gonna go over these banding lines again. You don't have to have our lead. So these are the ones that we went and did first. Now Okay, and now onto okay, so let's have a look. What did we miss? Did we miss this one? Okay. So these two lines, as you can see, they haven't lined up, and that's not good. So what we're gonna need to do is correct them, and in order to do that, I can see that we need to shift this one here. Other than that, we've got everything. So we've made this mistake, and we probably need to think about shifting this to go over here. Okay. Okay, now it's a little bit better, and it will be fixed when we are inking this. So on to the fun part, which is the painting, and I'm gonna be using a ruling pen, and I'm gonna be using some kind of gold gouache. So let's see how it works. I'm not 100% sure about this, but there's no harm in trying. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some of our gouache paint and put it in a small porcelain dish. Close the gouache and get some water. Try to water it down so that we can load it onto our rolling pen. I try to get some paper to help us avoid creating any mess onto our paper. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our ruling pen and we're gonna load it with our paint, as you can see. So that's already a very good thickness. And what I'm going to do is, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to start from the top left corner. Now you have to remember that you're using the ruler on its elevated side, so you don't place it like that on the right side, otherwise it is intact on the paper and the paint or the ink will seep underneath it through capillary action, and you don't want that. So what you want to do is invert that ruler and then I'm gonna again try and get I gotta say, this ruling pen is so much fun to use. and I think this paint is really good. And I've still got a few don't want to spilling the water and creating a mess. I went for this color choice just out of change really, because I've always gone for black. Okay, let's get some more ink. let it dry. to the second phase. The consistency we're trying to get to here is probably like cream. So again, this time we're gonna go from this side. So again, we turn our straight edge around, and we start. And again, you can see that this has been so watered down. So it's a good job that it didn't ruin it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to seep it out with a little bit of tissue paper. I had a feeling that this was too so I'm just gonna seep it out with tissue paper. Okay. I'm gonna correct it at the end, and I'll show you how. But let's mix the rest, because we want to make it thicker now. We don't want it to be very watery. Thicker will mean it will take longer time to dry, but it is what it is. And let's get back to work. So we're gonna forget about this one for now. We're probably gonna do this line and just leave it for now. Once it's dried, I'll tell you how we can fix it towards the end with some brushes and some white paint. Mistakes happen all the time. Excuse me, they're part of the process. Mistakes are part of the process. Now, of course, the more experience you get, the less mistakes you will be making. However, you can see with the thicker paint I'm now struggling a bit to get it consistently over the page. So I'm gonna have to be very patient with it, of course. Which is not a bad thing. Here we go. That's not a bad result so far. Need more of the paint. So again, this time I will try to make it a narrower line, and in order to do that I would need to take it from this point to that point, always reviewing what points, because you don't want to be making a mistake with the paint. Yes, mistakes could happen, but let's try to minimize them. However, if they do happen, it is what it is, and as I said, almost everything is fixable. Okay, and one last line, well, two last lines. There's one, and there is two, and here we go. So, because I don't like to waste any of this, what I will do is I will use it to just fill in some of these gaps, just because I don't want to waste any paint. I'll just put it anywhere where it's supposed to go. I'll open up the gap a little bit and see if I can just use it somewhere I could. instead of wasting it. So it's all gone now. Always clean and wipe your ruling pen. So now I gotta let everything else dry. In the meantime, I'll use more fine brush, something that I could use to get into those tight spaces of the drawing, and I just need to make sure there are no loose hairs. And again, on the side of the container, it would be good to just make sure that you get that brush to a pointy end and then start filling in. What would help is to get the paint next to you. And work that way. Of course, you need to make sure not to let any paint leave the lines. Let's see if I can manage that. almost there. Next, I'll be drawing the lines that are that way, and in order to do that, I will again prep my gouache paint here. And I will load up my ruling pen. Test it out over here. I'll probably start from this side. Okay. Maybe I could take this line as well. We go. I could probably also get this line while we're at it. So I look for lines that will not, or will be easier for me to outline and will be out of the way. I don't want my ruler to come over any wet paint at this stage. So perhaps I've got a line here as well. This one I could easily go over and just outline it as well. I'll let this, I don't want to be too greedy now. I'll let this dry and on to the next step. Now that I've waited for this to dry, I've actually gone ahead and also got a different ruler to make it a bit easier. So I'm going to be using this ruler. Remember, we don't use it on this side, which is flat on the paper. We always use this elevated lip so that the paint does not seep underneath and create a mess. preparing my ruling pen and onto drawing these final lines. Okay. Now onto these horizontal lines. Next set of lines are down here. As you can see, hopefully you're seeing the shape come together now. Now, I have some old pencil markings that I need to remove from here, and I'll probably just very lightly remove them for now. I can always rub them out at the end when everything dries out, so no need to get too excited. As you can see, I made a mistake here and rubbed out some of the paint. But again, I'll show you towards the end how I fix these mistakes. Okay. Now onto the next set of lines. And that's it. I'll probably go over this line as well, just the parts that I have smudged earlier. And that would be enough for now. I still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines to finish. I could probably do these, trying to keep the ruler elevated a bit and avoid smudging the lines that I've already drawn earlier. It's very tricky, but you could always try. There's no harm in trying. As you can see, I'm not gonna risk it because this one has just been inked, so I don't want to be risking it. Now again, I've got a little bit of ink here, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go over one of the parts that will be inked. So let's say this one, and I'm just gonna make sure that I fill it with whatever paint is remaining in my ruling pen, because I don't want to waste it, as I said. So just using my ruling pen as a brush at this moment in time, which is not the best way to use it. Open up. Here we go. I try to stay away from the lines that I'm still gonna be painting, so that's it, I think. Very good. So the next couple of lines are these lines. Again, mix some of my paint. I load my ruling pen. And quick test, good to go. So this is my first line. second line. My third line is going to be this one. Let me first try this one, because I'm just doing a bit of planning here, so making sure that I don't have any wet paint under my ruler, preferably. Now again, this is gouache, so it's very, very forgiving. Once you smudge it, or whatever corrections you want to be carrying out, they are quite straightforward in gouache. They're not going to be as tricky. Now you can see that I've actually limited myself, so I couldn't do these two lines now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to this side, and I'm going to try and make use of the time and do these two lines, and then I'll go back here and do these two lines here. And once I do these two lines, I've only got these two lines remaining. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start painting inside the bands. And again, when I start painting, I start from the top left corner and move outwards from there, or inwards from there. Now again, I'm just using the ruling pen because it had some paint in it, and I'd hate for that to go to waste. So you can see that the ruling pen helped us outline the shape that we want to be painting inside, otherwise the lines would have been not super sharp. Now, having said that, they're not going to be perfect, but at the same time you will have a better overall result. And again, this is all gouache, so you're able to correct it and go over it again and again. Especially if it's one of the less opaque paint. I think this one is semi-opaque, so it is somewhat forgiving to correct mistakes. All you need to do is just wet the area with a little bit of water on the brush. Don't even do much scrubbing, and then you lift that reactivated paint with a dry towel or a dry piece of cloth. And this is the bit that I found the most relaxing. I don't usually like to talk or even sometimes think a lot, because this just gets you into that flow state that is very relaxing and very satisfying. Now, I'm only doing the talking because I'm trying to narrate this video and explain to you the process from start to finish. in many videos you won't find me talking. I just leave it for you to play your own music or podcasts or whatever. Or just work in silence as I like to do. Because that's what gives me that relaxation and puts me in that flow state, as I said. I probably want to work with a thinner brush. This one could be 1. So I probably want to be working with one of the zeros, but that would take longer. Of course it would give me a more accurate result, but again, I'm not after super accuracy, you probably could tell. What we could do is try to fix some of these problems, and all we need to do is just mildly wet, and as you can see I just go in, dab that, and it's removed. Let's try again. So we've got this piece, or this part, so all we gotta do is just brush it away with water, and you could leave it there, but I like to even dry the water away with a cloth. I'm not sure if I see others, but there might be a piece here, so again I just brush it away and absorb it with a cloth. I think there was some smudging here, and as you can see it's all gone. Again, just absorb it with a cloth. Let's see if we've got any. Probably here. Maybe a little bit of... There we go. I can't see any. Maybe here. Again. So this is all over and above, to be fair. I mean, if you want to fix the mistakes, you could always do this. Sometimes I don't bother. I'm not, these are minor things for me. But if there's something that is sticking out and really bothers me, then I'll go in and try to remove it. So I've got one of these little erasers as well to just remove the stuff that is in some of these intricate spaces. And again, towards the end I'll get a better idea and view of what needs to be corrected and removed or fixed. And the last bit is this line, which I've left somehow. And I'm just worried, so I'd let it all dry and settle and then go back and do that last line, and then we'll think about the interlacing. Now on to the last line that I've left to the very end. Again, I'll take my ruling pen. Do a quick test. All good. And onto this line. The next line. And that will be the last link that needs filling in. I did, however, spot mistakes, which are quite major mistakes here. So you can see that these two pieces, these two kites, and these two kites, we call them kites, they're not equal. Which means that either this line needs to be shifted a little bit to that side, or in this case, that line needs to be shifted a little bit to the right. Now, I could try and do that to fix the mistakes, but I'm just going to call it a day on this piece and continue with the outlining just to show you the rest of the techniques. As I said, errors happen, and this is probably an error that either in my drawing or in the banding when I came to create the bands around the original lines. You might not see it, but you might not see it at first, but definitely when you pay attention and when someone points it out for you, you are definitely gonna see it. And I'm afraid there is no way to unsee it after that. Now my next step would be to actually outline the outside of this pattern. So I'm gonna go on the outside, and I was thinking, do I use black or do I use gold? I'm just gonna go with gold and see what that looks like. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place my ruler and I'm gonna go around Right, so let's try and fix those mistakes. So the first mistake I see is this part smaller than this kite and this kite smaller than this kite. And what I'm proposing is to just shift this line very slightly to the right. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to just lightly mark the center here. And then once we do that, we'll probably need now to shift that line, and then I want to shift that line as well a little bit to the right. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my towel and start erasing this bit by bit. So this is part. You can see, as I told you, mistakes are easy to fix here because it is gouache and it is very forgiving. Okay, so it's already dry to the touch. Let's go and try to fix those lines. hopefully this works this time. So I need to redo that line. I believe this is better now. It's just gonna dry and hopefully show that it's much better. Now I've made them almost equal. There's still a very minor error, but this has fixed it. Still needs fixing the other side. I think it cut off, the recording did cut off, so I'll continue fixing this. as I said, this line needs to be shifted a little bit to the left. And what I'm trying to do here is just very gently scrub away the paint without destroying the paper. So I just very gently try and scrub away the paint. Again, this will not show in the final result. This will all be fixed. So let's see how we can now fix this. So what we're going to do here is shift this line a little bit to the left, and in order to do that we're just going to try and line it up with so this is a line that takes it to the left, and then we're gonna shift this other line upwards like this. And that should take care of it. Okay. You can already see that this has made this bigger and this a bit smaller, which is exactly what we were trying to achieve here. gonna need more paint. So now I'm just gonna fill filling this last element. And letting it dry. And once it's dry, we're gonna go and now think about the next 2 steps, which are gonna be around so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw 2 more lines around the outside, and in order to do that I'll go 2 millimeters and then another 2 millimeters this way. I will line up my ruler again, and I'll take 2 millimeters this side and another 2 millimeters to the side. I'll do the same up here. So again, I'll line up my ruler and I'll do 2 millimeters, then another 2 millimeters. This side as well, I'm gonna do 2 millimeters, another 2 millimeters. Now, two millimeters, another 2 millimeters, 2 millimeters, another 2 millimeters, and gonna let it dry and come back. On to the next line. And that's the last line. Thank you for watching and enjoy. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them over to me and write them in the comments below. And if there is any pattern that you'd like to learn, feel free to also mention it in the comments section. Thank you.